Hello everyone. Let me ask you something simple before we begin. Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to say something in English, but your mind just stopped working? You understood everything, you knew the words somewhere in your memory, but when it was your turn to speak, nothing came out smoothly. You paused, you hesitated, and inside your head everything felt slow and heavy. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. This is something almost every English learner experiences at some point, and many people believe the reason is simple. They think their English is not good enough, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is something deeper, something invisible, something happening inside your brain, and today we are going to fix that. Today we are going to talk about how to think in English naturally, smoothly, and without translation, because once you learn how to think in English, everything changes. Your speaking becomes faster, your sentences become more natural, and most importantly, you start to feel confident. Now, here's the best part. You don't need to move to another country, you don't need expensive courses, and you don't need to study. For hours every day, all you need is a simple method and small daily practice. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to train your brain to think in English step by step. Imagine this. Someone asks you a very simple question. What did you do today? You understand the question immediately. There is no problem with listening, but when you try to answer, something strange happens. Your brain goes back to your native language. You start building the answer there, then you try to translate it into English, and then you try to fix the grammar. While you are doing all of this, the conversation is already moving forward. You feel pressure, you feel nervous, and sometimes you just give a short answer or stay quiet. This process is called translating in your head, and this is the biggest reason why your English feels slow, because your brain is doing double work. Now imagine a different situation. Someone asks you the same question. What did you do today? And this time your answer comes instantly. I worked in the morning, then I watched a video, and after that I relaxed. No translation, no stress, no long pause, just a natural response. That is what it means to think in English. And yes, this is something you can learn. You don't need special talent. You don't need perfect grammar. You just need to train your brain in the right way, because thinking in English is not something you are born with. It is a skill, and like any skill, it becomes stronger with practice. But here is where many learners make a mistake. They try to think in perfect, long sentences from the beginning, and that is too difficult. When something feels too difficult, your brain naturally goes back to your native language. So instead of trying to do everything at once, we start small, very small. Right now, wherever you are, just look around you and notice what you see. Maybe you see a phone, a table, a chair, a window, or a light. Just name these things in English. Don't make full sentences. Don't think about grammar. Just say the words in your mind. Phone, table, chair. This may feel too easy, and you might even think, how is this going to help me speak English? But this is actually one of the most powerful steps, because you are training your brain to connect the real world directly with English words without translation. When you do this every day, something interesting starts to happen. Words begin to come to your mind automatically. You don't search for them, you don't translate, they just appear, and that is the beginning of thinking in English. Once you feel comfortable with single words, you can move to the next level, which is simple thoughts. Instead of just saying coffee, you think, I want coffee. Instead of just weather, you think, the weather is nice. These are short and simple sentences, but they are powerful because they come from your real life. When you wake up in the morning, you can think, I feel sleepy. When you are eating, you can think, this food is good. When you are working, you can think, I am busy right now. You are not studying, you are not memorizing, you are simply thinking, and this is exactly how language becomes natural. Now let's take it one step further. One of the most powerful techniques you can use is something very simple but very effective: talking to yourself. Yes, it may sound a little strange at first, but this is one of the best ways to practice speaking without pressure. You don't need a partner, you don't need to feel shy, and you don't need to worry about mistakes. You can create small conversations in your mind. For example, you can ask yourself, what should I do now? And then answer, I should finish my work. Or you can think, what do I want to eat? And answer, I want something light. This kind of practice prepares you for real conversations because in real life, communication is not just about knowing words, it's about responding naturally. And when you practice this every day, your brain becomes faster and your responses become smoother. Now, here is something very important. At some point, you will not know a word, and this happens to everyone. When it happens, many learners go back to their native language, but instead of doing that, try something different, explain the idea in simple English. For example, if you don't know the word calculator, you can say, the thing I use to count numbers. If you don't know headphones, you can say, the device I use to listen to music. This habit is very powerful because it keeps your brain in English and teaches you how to communicate even with limited vocabulary. Now let's talk about one technique that can completely change your English if you use it correctly. It's called shadowing. Shadowing is simple. You listen to English and you repeat it immediately like an echo. You don't stop, you don't translate, and you don't think too much. You just listen and repeat. For example, if you hear, I want to improve my English, you repeat it right away. Then you hear, I practice every day. And you repeat again. But here is the key, don't just repeat the words, copy the sound, the rhythm, and the speed, because English is not just a language, it's a flow. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, you may feel like you are speaking too fast, and you may not understand everything, but that is okay. Shadowing is not about understanding every word, it is about training your brain and your mouth to work together, and if you practice this for just a few minutes every day, you will start to notice something. Your speaking becomes faster, your pronunciation becomes clearer, and your confidence starts to grow. Now let's bring everything into your daily life, because the truth is you don't need extra time to learn English, you just need to use the time you already have. Think about your normal day. You wake up, you eat, you walk, you use your phone, you go to work or study. All of these moments are opportunities. When you are cooking, you can think, I cut vegetables, I add salt. When you are walking, you can think, I see people, the weather is warm. When you are using your phone, you can think, I check my messages, I watch a video. These are simple actions, but when you describe them in English, your brain stays in English, and over time, it becomes natural. Another important habit is listening. If you want to think in English, you need to hear English regularly because your brain learns patterns through listening. So listen to podcasts, videos, or even short clips, and don't worry if you don't understand everything. Even if you understand only part of it, your brain is learning. Slowly, you start recognizing words, then phrases, then full sentences, and one day you realize you understand without translating. Now let's talk about speaking, because thinking is important, but speaking makes it real. Use your voice. Read something out loud, repeat sentences, and say your thoughts. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but that's normal. Every new skill feels uncomfortable in the beginning, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Finally, let's keep everything simple. You don't need to change your whole life, you just need to build small habits. Think in English for a few minutes every day, listen regularly, practice shadowing, talk to yourself, and use simple sentences. That's it. If you do this consistently, something amazing will happen. You will stop translating. You will start responding faster, and English will begin to feel natural, not perfect, but natural, and that is the real goal. So remember this, fluency is not about doing something big once, it's about doing something small every day. Right now, wherever you are, try this, look around you and think one sentence in English, just one. That's how it begins. Keep going, stay consistent, and trust the process. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.